and thank you everybody for being here. I'd like to start by asking that you please consider allowing everything that you hear to just wash over you, and see if you can feel the truth and the knowing and the love that's always behind everything. A new year, a new time, new beginnings. It says in A Course in Miracles, be confident that on this day, there is a new beginning. What do we do with the new year, really? We start with these messages of a new year, a new you. There's a lot of emphasis on us having to be new. I'd like to question that and put out a different idea. Maybe 2022 is a great year to stop trying to change ourselves and start being more of who we really are. Wouldn't it be nice to be more of who we really are instead of some kind of edited version of ourselves? And to really be with others instead of our edited versions of them. Speaking more from soul to soul. It's important to look at the idea of change, since this is a life of action, a life of change, and it is best to see where we need to do that and take the necessary action to bring it about. To take those leaps into the new and trust it will be better than what we left behind in the old. But the other paradigm to consider is a paradigm of growth. The idea of change coupled with the idea of growth. The idea of evolution as opposed to resolution. So that the change isn't coming from a kind of a pressure for us to change, which often comes from some kind of a self-rejection, where we may be rejecting parts of who we are, feeling like we're not enough somehow, things like that. But when it's paired with growth, it's coming with vision. It's holding it differently. Louise Hay said, she spoke about not just going through our lives, but growing through our lives. So it isn't so much about how would I like to change, but how would I like to grow and evolve. It's actually wonderful when we run out of ideas about how to do that, of how to live. Well, the ego wouldn't agree with that, but we can now start to listen more to the intelligence of our soul to show us how to live, how to grow, and to show us how much we actually have been growing. Our ego seems to have amnesia or blind spots when it comes to our successes. But when we've run out of ideas, we can become most receptive to our inner, loving, impeccable guidance. It's when we allow the intelligence of love to inspire how we think. Growing is becoming more and more of who and what we really are. How do you want to grow this year? What does your heart, what does your soul, what does God, what does love most want for you this year? Maybe on a spiritual level, it has something to do with aligning more and more with the love within you. Our conscious awareness of this love, of the truth of who we are, shining even more brightly. So I'm going to be asking a few questions throughout. You don't have to remember them. I can repeat them at the end if you'd like to address them during the Q&A. So not to think about that. Another question. What are some of the things you want to be able to say no to, the things you want to let go of in order to be able to say yes to the truth? to what you truly want to embrace in your life now. Empowered growth is built on willfulness, like I will do this. Spiritual growth is built on willingness, allowing things to be different from what they've been. I'd like to read this passage from Hey God, Hey John, What Happens When God Writes Back? And it's a conversation between a me, a human, and God. Me, hey God. God, hey John. Me, I'm about to break. God, why do you think that is? Me, because life just keeps getting harder. God, then you need to become softer. Me, huh? God, here's the thing. Glass is hard, but it can shatter when dropped. Rock is hard, but it can be broken with a drill. Gold is hard, but it can be melted in a blazing fire. Don't be so hard that you break down so easily. Be soft like wet clay in the hands of a potter. Be soft like river water in the summer. Be soft like the breeze through a row of tall pines. All of those things survive no matter what happens to them. They endure because they haven't built their existence out of hard materials. Be soft with other people. Don't break them with your words. And don't let them break you with theirs. Be soft with yourself. Your heart is more cotton. There's the Brooklyn, cotton than iron. Your soul is wrapped in the softest of fabrics for a reason. The softer you become, the more you understand how precious all life is. Be more of cotton than you are of concrete. Love isn't cold granite. Love is shapeless. Love is like ocean water gently passing through your toes. Become so soft that nothing can break you. What would it be like for the new year to become so soft that nothing can break you? As one of my favorite teachers, Adyashanti, used to say, says, to have less of this. This is ego. Ego holds on. And more of this. That's wisdom. That's letting go. Willingness is effortless living in presence from moment to moment. New beginnings. Every moment is a new beginning. Do we do better when we're in the moment, or do we do better when we're in the repetitive noise in our head? Clarity, truth, or chaos, drama, and confusion. Being available in the moment is what works best. We're designed to live in the present moment, not to live in imaginary scenarios with imaginary consequences. We aren't designed to know what we're going to have for dinner in 2 weeks or what we had for dinner 2 weeks ago. All we're looking for can be found in presence. Eckhart Tolle says, you can make a choice to be present rather than indulge in useless thinking. Now, that would be a new beginning. What if, for example, we were to give less weight to our opinions? What if instead of the times when we're struggling to try to figure out something, or we're taking on the role of the evaluator, the assessor, the judge, we were willing to pause, Maybe become curious instead and possibly adopt the lesson from A Course in Miracles. I do not know what anything is for, so as to create a space for a new way of seeing something with softer, more loving eyes. A couple of days ago on my Buddha tea bag, there was this little message, and it says, growth is deleting an entire paragraph and texting, okay. Could you imagine? Wouldn't that be a great beginning for the new year? And then maybe instead of being stuck, of holding on to our opinions so strongly, things will work out in that softer, more loving way. And then we can move on and enjoy our life. What a wonderful new beginning that would turn out to be. The doorway to well-being is when we land in the now. That's where we feel better. When we're in the now, there are beautiful feelings as our head clears, as all this stuff starts to settle down and clear. We can enjoy the trees, friends, beauty. There's clarity, and clarity can move mountains. There's such great benefits. We don't have to figure out the deeper problems of life. We can trust our wisdom, our common sense, our guidance. It always has our back. Love is now. Love lives in the moment. It doesn't ask for anything. It's just here, available, and asks for the asking. Love is the key to every closed door. The remembrance of that is what's coming from the best inside of us. And the more we live from the best inside of us, the better we do. I'd like to read a story. It's called The Rich Man and the Beggar. Many years ago, a man was sitting in quiet contemplation by a riverbank when he was disturbed by a beggar from the local village. "Where is the stone?" the beggar demanded. "I must have the precious stone." The man smiled up at him. "What stone do you seek?" "I had a dream," the beggar answered, barely able to slow his words enough to speak. "And in that dream, a voice told me that if I went to the riverbank, I would find a man who would give me a precious stone that would end my poverty forever." The man looked thoughtful, then reached into his bag and pulled out a large diamond. "I wonder if this is the stone," he said kindly. "I found it on the path. If you'd like it, you may certainly have it." The beggar couldn't believe his luck, and he snatched the stone and ran back to the village before the man could change his mind. 1 year later, the beggar, now dressed in the clothes of a wealthy man, came back to the riverbank in search of his anonymous benefactor. "You have returned, my friend," said the man, who was sitting again in his favorite spot, enjoying the peaceful flow of the water before him. "What has happened?" The beggar humbled himself before the man. "Many wonderful things have happened to me because of the diamond you gave me so graciously. I have become wealthy, found a wife, and bought a home. I am now able to give employment to others and to do what I want, when I want, with whomever I want." "So why have you returned?" asked the man. "Please," the beggar said, "teach me whatever it is inside you that allowed you to give me that stone so freely." This is the place of truth and of love that we're pointing to, where we have a 24/7 invitation and welcome. If you knew you already had all the love in the world within you, how would you do things differently? What might it be like if we were to view our life as an infinite flip chart, and we can turn the page to a new blank page of pure possibility anytime we want? When we have a new thought, we'll have a different experience and feeling. We get to create new in each moment. Thought is the magical paintbrush with which our reality is created. We think and speak that paint onto the canvas of our consciousness and then experience the painting as if it's real. But no matter how many times we've painted the same picture, it's still just one of a million possible pictures that can be painted on the blank canvas of the next moment. So if we have this, for example, here we have up here a blank page, right? And then we have some thought. So we put some thought there on the blank page. And then we have more thought. Maybe it's not good enough. Let me put something else here. So we start to put, we can create something that looks like that, right? And then we may get to, oh no, I have to figure this out. This is serious. This is important. So then we give it a lot of thought. And we end up with something like that. So what happens with something like that is that there isn't any space for inspiration, anything new or fresh to come in, any fresh ideas. There isn't space for any of that. Quincy Jones had always said before he'd go in to do his producing of an album that there needs to be space. The first thing he would say is there needs to be space for God. We have to make space for God. And I had heard recently that a grade school teacher, I thought this was so beautiful, she taught the children to put lines in between what they were writing to allow for there to be space for the butterflies to land. So going back to when we're like this, right? When we have this going on, all this stuff going up, we're all up in our head. We can always just turn the page. The power of the blank page. We can always have a fresh start. We think we know what things are really like, but we only know what we think. How are we using the gift of thought? Are we using it to criticize ourselves, for example? Why would we spend so much time in our worst thinking? The wonderful thing about thought is that it can change in the blink of an eye. There'll always be more coming. So let's take a look at another idea, such as, I'm the kind of person who. I'm the kind of person who. Let's say is I'm the kind of person who is shy and I don't like to talk at parties. My mentor, who's world-renowned, had that thought for decades until one day he put that into question and wondered if that were actually true. He thought, maybe I'm not so shy and I can go to parties and enjoy myself. And he tried it. And that's just what happened. He was the last one to leave and he had a wonderful time. And he now reaches out to really what could be millions with his talks. In a session he and I were having, I told him I was also very shy and quiet, which was true, but especially during the 10 years I lived in an abusive household, I was pretty much mute. And he simply said to me, Randi, you're not a shy little mute. You have a lot to say. That was cool. And what's true now? Who are we now? How do we want to show up in our lives now? And when I looked at this a little more, I realized after having 3 children and now 6 grandchildren, none of them were born shy. I've never met a shy baby. In fact, it seems to be completely natural for babies and small children to be indiscriminately fascinated by life. A 5-minute walk it can take an hour with my grandkids because they're fascinated with so many things along the way. I recently took out a new memory game for my granddaughter, and after we punched out the pieces, the cardboard things, all she wanted to do was take the cardboard cutouts and make a house from that instead. So she said, Mimi, please get me my pink sparkly glue. Of course, I obeyed, and a base to put this on, and she built a house instead. And it suggests that enjoying everything is what's natural, and having strong preferences is something that we've learned along the way. So what if we were to take our old way of seeing something that we may be struggling with off the table and come to it fresh? We're not stuck with our acquired preferences. We can return to our natural mode of indiscriminate enjoyment in any moment. Anytime we get past our thinking and into whatever it is we're doing, we learn more and do better. Over time, that indiscriminate enjoyment leads to less stress, less procrastination, and a natural boost in our productivity. Last point. The nature of thought is to flow. It won't stay any longer than we hold on to it. For example, if we're in an art gallery, it doesn't make sense to look at a piece that we don't like for 4 hours. In the same way, it doesn't make sense to hold on to a thought for an extended period of time. Its nature is to flow. New thought, new feeling, new experience. There's that part of us that has the deeper solutions, the peace, certainly love, and okayness, no matter what's going on, emotionally, physically, mentally. Sydney Banks, an enlightened Scottish welder, said, "We're always sitting in the middle of mental well-being. We just don't know it." And that a mind filled with love and good feelings cannot go wrong. Dorothy McLean said the most important thing to do is to love with everything that you've got.